Hello and welcome to our third presentation on the online election conversation in South Africa. My name is Moleboge Mokoka and I'm accompanied by my colleague Hunter Barron. Our analysis this time around focuses on the period between 12 and 29 February 2024. During this period, the conversation received more than 450,000 mentions from at least 60,000 authors. More than 80% of this conversation is made up of reposts and not original content. Among the biggest talking points was the announcement that elections would take place on the 29th of May. The conversation was the main reason behind Peak A, as highlighted in the graph on your screen. Peak B, recorded on the 23rd of February, was generated by mentions from organizations as well as individuals encouraging the public to register to vote before registration closed at midnight that same day. Vote MK 2024 and Vote EFF were among the popular hashtags during this period. Hashtag Vote MK 2024 was predominantly driven by conversation related to the removal of Western Cape Judge President John Hlophe. A video showing former President Jacob Zuma disparaging the South African Roman Dutch legal system as an artifact of colonial-era rule also received high engagement online. Hashtag Vote EFF was predominantly related to the Gauteng launch of the party's election manifesto. We noted a strong sentiment that South Africa's political progress is being delayed or hindered by at least one of these two groups: older people who continue to vote for the ANC and younger people who do not vote at all. Further criticism was directed towards the youth who are accused of waiting to be told by influencers to register to vote. Some individuals question whether the youth in particular would also rely on influencers to tell them which party to vote for. This came after beauty influencer Ketobuhle Ngonyama, who popularly goes by K-Yams, used her Instagram platform to encourage her followers to register to vote. The CABC has noted attacks on media houses, this time focused on News24 and the Daily Maverick. News24 journalist Karen Mon was targeted in a series of posts from the official IOL X account. Stephen Grootes and the Daily Maverick have been accused of being funded by the CIA, a revival of a 2022 narrative initially started by IOL. This later resulted in the exposure of a non-existent IOL journalist, Jamie Ross. These attacks, aimed at undermining media houses and affected journalists, need to be stopped. I will now hand over to my colleague Hunter, who will share more of our findings as well as recommendations.
Thank you, Lebo. Our presentation this week is heavily geared towards instances of mis and disinformation. Noting the increase in volume with regard to this form of content is worrying so soon after the election date has been announced. With regards to electoral mis and disinformation, we noted attacks against the independence of the IEC. In the post on the left-hand side, an individual questioned an alleged trip the IEC had made to learn from the ZEC, or Zimbabwe Electoral Commission. Luckily, the IEC responded to this post to refute the story, stating that they were not involved. This post, while gaining no traction, is indicative of the subtlety of misinformation and how it spreads. A news and media site, Negi, released an article with no evidence or comment behind it, and this in turn can change the perspective of individuals. We must ensure to keep an eye out for posts of this nature and news media sites which post unsubstantiated information. The middle post showcases another form of disinformation, this time by omission. The Truth Panther is a well-known source of xenophobic information on the X platform. In this particular case, the account posted about the granting of IDs to Mozambican nationals ahead of an unspecified election. When looking into the story beyond the headline, the truth is that the Mozambican consulate registered Mozambican nationals for the Mozambican general election. This is left out of the headline as the account ostensibly hopes individuals won't research or read further into the context behind the story. Finally, the post on the right comes from an influencer account which styles itself as a confessional. The account's premise is that you can share whatever you'd like anonymously and garner reactions. This post in particular is the first instance of electoral misinformation attached to this influencer to the best of our knowledge. These posts are particularly difficult to deal with, as the individual behind the submission is always kept anonymous. We continue to note disinformation and incitement from the Mkhonto Wesizwe Party. This reporting period in particular was ripe for mis and disinformation. On the left-hand side, African Soil, the previously alleged disinformation network account, states that the MK party is likely to be deregistered. One will notice across all three of these posts an attack on the independence of the judiciary and the drawing of alleged collusion between the judiciary and executive branches in response to the MK party. This is particularly salient in the second post, which again speaks to deregistration and the stripping of MK from the ballot by another account that has been previously alleged to be involved in a disinformation network. Finally, we noted with shock a speech which may be construed as incitement to violence by Visvin Reddy, leader of the MK party in KZN. Again, note the parallels drawn between the ANC and MK's trademark battle and how this is drawn to supposed judicial collusion intended to keep the MK party off the ballot. On that note, the MK party's disinformation stream seems to hope to get out ahead of legal challenges that the party is likely to face. For example, an alleged leak of the MK party list shows that Jacob Zuma is the first person in line for a seat in the National Assembly, even though he is potentially ineligible due to his suspended prison sentence and the requirements of MPs as laid out in the Constitution. Furthermore, this may relate to the awaited outcome of the ANC and MK party trademark battle based on the use of the logo of Mkhonto Wesizwe. Certain posts here fell outside of our reporting date range, but we felt that they were important enough to include to get the news out there. In closing out our presentation this week, we recommend that organizations and individuals amplify replies and posts from the IEC which dispel mis and disinformation. We hope to encourage interested parties to amplify tools of democratic education, such as that from our partner Future Elect, as well as manifesto compilations from media houses. We put forth the recommendation that influencers remain an untapped market in driving youth eagerness to vote, and that there may exist opportunities for partnerships in this space. Finally, we propose continued monitoring of attacks on journalists, the media, and our democratic institutions. The floodgates of mis and disinformation will only continue to open wider and wider as we get closer to the date of the election, and we will need to protect robust and resilient information ecosystems post the announcement of electoral results. Thank you for joining us for another edition of our Social Listening Insights.